Time. And if the YouTube timing is right, we are live. Hello, everyone. I am author DL Tillery, the Mistress of Horror, and I have my guest with me here tonight, the awesome Cam Wolfe. You should know him here from YouTube and also some of his awesome, amazing, creepy stories that he puts out. So we'll get to talk to him in a second. And you know, this channel, we're all about horror over here. And always with CGL Horror at the end of each month. We get to hear about all the creepy talk that we like to say over here and also creepy tales. All right, so I'm going to let my guest introduce himself. Cam, take it away.
Thank you very much. My name's Cam. Over on the YouTube channel, Cam Wolfe is writing. Uh, Not really sure what to say about myself other than, I'm a writer. I've written a horror novel. I've written quite a lot of horror short stories. I've been with all the regular YouTube writer crowd. I'm sure you're aware of. Hang on. Uh, Regina over at Regina's Haunted Library. I was one of the people that submitted for her book. So yeah, I'm basically like all those guys. I'm just on here talking about writing and trying to do some of it myself when the mood fits me.
Cool. So we are going to see who's here so far. Let's see who's here. Let's see Aphrodite. Hey Aphrodite. She's like,
Aphrodite.
gotta yell shout out for you there. Yes, I know.
Love Aphrodite.
I know. She's awesome. I get to live in the same state as her and we're best friends, so yay me.
Lucky.
Right though. And Cool Gamer is here. Novel Nana is here. And everybody's saying hi. And of course, Aphrodite's already ready for the questions. She got a question for you. And actually, everyone that's coming tonight, you can put any questions for Cam in the chat. But let's try to save them for the segment when I mention it, so that way I won't have to scroll a million miles back up, and I don't want to miss anybody's awesome questions that we have for him. So, but we like to actually do some cool things like the topics, and I always love to do the topics because they're always fun horror topics. So the first topic for tonight is, what would your power be if you had to contend with Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street? Hmm. Freddy. So everyone who knows about Freddy. Now, if you so happen to not know about Freddy, that's so weird because he's been around forever. Um, but he is a dream demon. So that's what about the power thing. And then in a lot of his stories, he's come across some kids since he likes to hunt up the teenagers specifically. They usually, some of them have maybe some powers, and that was really a very specific kind of Freddy movie that some of the kids was lucky enough to be like, oh, I figured out my powers in my dreams. And a lot of the time it may have situated around who they were, possibly, or maybe something that they like to do. But I'm giving you a step up. I'm letting you choose what your power will be. So what would your power be if you had to contend with Freddy? So Cam, did you want to answer that first?
That's a really rough one. Of all the people to pick, Freddy Krueger's probably one of the hardest because I feel like when you're in a dream state, you're basically you're in his world, you're playing by his rules. So I don't really know how far your powers could even get you there. So my thought would be that your main priority would be staying awake, basically indefinitely. I think the easiest way to do that would probably be if your power was to like body switch with people. That way you just stay awake as long as you can, and then maybe body switch to someone that's just woken up from a
Freddy movie, actually.
Yeah.
To watch.
Well, he can't get you if you don't sleep. So just...
right, and he just keep jumping in bodies that are completely awake. Like, oh, it's morning. Let me jump. It's people endlessly awake. So
exactly, and imagine how much writing you could get done as well.
That's a very good idea. I think I said, let me see what I said. I had like wrote it down before. I'm like, I know. I was thinking. I was going back and forth. You've been laughing at me. I was like, do I want to be Rogue from like the Marvel universe? Because Rogue can take other people's powers and all this stuff. I was being funny, but like, I think I probably would just say something like, probably control my dreams, which I kind of have this thing like when I sleep, I don't remember my dreams most of the time, because a lot of the times when we do remember our dreams, it's, we all dream whether we remember them or not, because our mind needs to relieve stress while we sleep. So I think a lot of times my stress is so solidified in my daily life that I'm not remembering the dreams enough so I can relieve the stress while I'm sleeping. So I'm like, I probably want to definitely have control, dream control power, or I would have to pick super martial arts, which I'm a martial artist anyway. I've been since I was 4 years old, because apparently that's all you need to beat Freddy. Because Allison was just taking all her friends' powers and she just whipped his ass. So and he
Yeah,
could never beat her. Like that's the one person he didn't kill. She didn't come back in the old one and he killed her. She came back in another one, but never was able to beat her. He killed her boyfriends. Like he came for her kid, and she still didn't die. Like, and then we know what's her name came back and he totally got her. But it's like apparently martial arts, because that's her brother's power was like the one she went to a lot, even though she ended up using some of the other powers. So either become rogue, but the bad downside about rogue is she only can take on one power at a time, which that's not going to do you any good. So you're apparently multiple types of powers. So I would say control over my dreams, because at least that way, if you have control over your dreams, you can leave the dream when you want to.
Puts you on equal ground with
You need to
Freddy,
get
I think.
out. And and then one of the main things about Freddy was like take him out of the dream. That's at least that's what what's her name came up with, and she was like, "Oh, I'll pull him out, and then I can beat him because then he's like humanized, and I can defeat him." That's why he was
That's
so
what they
adamant.
did in Freddy vs. Jason. I think that's what they did.
Yeah,
They pulled him out of the
he
dream.
gets it every time. I love me some Jason Voorhees though. Like he's no joke, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fuck with that guy.
No, I always thought it was funny. I forget which Jason it was, and the guy, like for some odd reason, tries to fight Jason. I mean, that happened multiple times, but this specific time, he
Is that the
ran
one where they're
down
on the rooftop?
that rooftop one. I like that one.
Yeah,
That's when
yeah.
he goes like, "Take your best shot." I'm like, dude, like,
He's like trying to box him, trying to
and he
box
hits him,
Jason
and Jason's
Voorhees.
like doing the chest breathing thing. And I'm like, does it look like you could hit that dude and hurt? And he's like, take your best shot after he's like exhausted, and he just knocks his head off with one hit. Like, okay. There was another one where the guy goes downstairs. Like they know Jason busts in, and it's like a chick upstairs or something, and the dude like goes downstairs like he's gonna defend, and then he's like, get out of there, and he's like, oh, he runs down, he's like, he's killing me. I'm like, of course he's killing you. It's Jason. Duh. Like, why'd you go down there? You were better off trying to go out the window. But I don't know about Jason, because Jason, they said the video game was canon. So if the video game is canon, Jason teleports. You're in trouble.
I mean,
like
he has to, doesn't he?
What? You know how fast he gets in front of people? You're like,
yeah.
Ain't no way he caught up to me. Like, where he come from? So he's been teleporting this whole time, which is cheesy.
I like to imagine that when no one's looking, Jason just like quickly runs. A big, massive, like 7-foot tall guy just doing a really goofy run.
Right? And then he's like out of breath when you show up. And that's why he's breathing so heavy, because he ran so fast. He's very upset. That's so funny. Let's see what everyone else said in the chat about the question. Let's see who else is here too. Regina, hey. Happy to see you.
Speak of the devil, we just mentioned.
Thank you. Everyone saying hi to you. And Regina popped in. Aphrodite says teleportation. She's convinced she can teleport away and get away from him constantly, and she'll keep teleporting out of his range, apparently. So we'll see. I don't know. Freddy's very tricky too. So anything you could come up with, he most of the time can come up with some tricky way to get you, and really don't have fears, because if you have fears, which everyone does, he'll use them against you. Being a dream demon, it's just a very hard one to beat when you're just a human.
Yeah, I'm more scared of Freddy Krueger than I would be of Jason, to be honest.
Yeah, Jason would be not as scary to me probably as Freddy. I really think Freddy's I really can't stand Freddy. I'm like, he's a loser. But like, he's a dream demon, and I mean, actual, though Jason is a demon too, getting to this point of, when he died and then the whole change and all that stuff. So, it's like Mike Myers. Mike Myers isn't, but he's just a whole nother story. But Mike Myers needs to go sit down with his kitchen knife, like, honestly though. But Jason is very intimidating because of the physicality of the demon. And then of course Freddy being intimidating because of the not being able to do anything physically to him. You have to try to figure out a way how to do that or overpower your dreams. So that's a very
with Jason, I feel like I would just catch a plane to another country or something and hang out for a bit. But with
Right?
Freddy Krueger, there's
Right.
no
Yeah, I
escape.
know that doesn't work, right? So
Mm,
a lot of times these demons and stuff in the stories, a lot of times they're linked to their location, which helps a
mm.
lot. I'm like, why isn't anyone leaving? And like
Have you
Nancy
seen
came
the
back, hence why she died.
Have you seen
You
the
know.
movie called It Follows? That horror? It's a
Yeah,
really interesting
that's
one
like that metaphor thing for like
with a
telling
snail.
people to stop having sex and stuff. Pretty much like you're going to catch
Oh
the
right, yeah,
STDs. It's like STD, if STDs were more like something demonic that's following you, and then it's going to get you. So it was like a metaphor for that. But I still liked It Follows, as it was like I like the part when the chick
yeah. It
is in
was
the
fun.
street. And she's like trying to outrun the invisible thing we can't see at the moment, and she's like, ah, and trying to run, and it's just the camera.
It's based
It's
on a really old, like, kind of fun question people would give each other, and that was there's a snail following you, and you can never stop it, and it's always coming towards you all the time. Doesn't sleep or anything like that. It's always coming towards you, but you get $1 million. But if the snail catches you, you die instantly, just like that. That was the question. Would you do it for $1 million? And then they made a movie about it where it's like a
right.
demon or whatever that's always coming
Yeah, it
towards you.
always looks
Except
pretty bad though. Like whatever the twist like thing that's chasing them. Like one time they showed
mm,
the thing, and I was like, it's like a giant naked thing. I'm like, that's pretty scary.
instead of $1 million, though, you just get laid. That's it.
Right, that's it. Woohoo! Like, no, like not for this. Like the past will getting, and then like it was kind of like that kind of thing where you had to pass it, it's like the pass on type of thing too. Kind of like the way you
Yeah,
do with the ring, and the way you got to make the recording and shit like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like it was interesting. I mean, I've seen so many different horror movies, but It Follows is you can't really forget it. I was like, they so funny. Oh my goodness. All right, let's see. Everybody else in the chat. Yep. You getting all the love, Cam. Yes,
I
Cam
appreciate it.
fans. We're all Cam fans. How could you not be? Let's
Thanks,
see.
guys.
See, Aphrodite said, so my paranormal power would be teleportation. My normal power would be ally. She funny because she figured she'd just get on his side so he would kill her.
Ah,
And my abnormal power would be minion. So she'd be like, I'll do whatever you say. Aphrodite's so funny. I can't. She's like, I would convince him that I was on his side until I could get away. Dude, let me help you. Kill these kids. I got you, bro.
that's a strategy. That's a bold strategy.
You gotta
It's
think.
risky, but
Thinking.
could
That's
pay
pretty
off.
funny. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm gonna answer that. Yep, stay awake. And or maybe a power would be to render him powerless and become the biggest fear. Yep. And after I said, man, they did you so wrong. See, you just gonna be feeding them. That's all you do. Yeah. So, but seriously, I would want to have teleportation powers. Yeah, because I mean, they could use that for a minute, but I know Freddy, man, he's going to find a way to use that against you. Like he's going to find a way. Like he's good at that crap. Yes, Jason. With Jason, what's in my power would be running without falling. Cause yeah, like I said, Jason be teleporting. So she says speed runner. That's too funny. Everybody laughing at you, Aphrodite. She like, I'm on your side, bro. Look, she would tell him, I'm afraid of kissing Orlando Bloom. Come and get me, Freddie. Make that nightmare come true. She's so funny, I can't. All right, and we have Sailor Twilight. Hey, Sailor Twilight, what is up? Glad to have you. All right. And Aphrodite said, laughing like exactly. Freddie going to kill me in my nightmares, and I terrified Orlando Bloom. Yeah, just convince him. Just convince him. Just pick the hottest dude you like and be like, I'm so scared of him. It's my worst nightmare. And maybe he'll believe that. Is there a scenario where I get $1 million and I'll get late? Do I need to write this? I'm not telling you not to. I'm not telling you not to. Everybody laughing at you. You goofy. Hey Ava, what's up? Let's see. Sailor Twilight said, I try for the power of friendship. Maybe try and be Freddy's friend. You on the same page as Aphrodite at this point. Then I will have him bring Orlando Bloom into Aphrodite's dream. Oh,
I
you
feel
helping
like
out a
Orlando
friend.
Bloom's getting thrown under the bus here. I don't think
Yeah,
Orlando
sounds
wants to
like
be brought into a Freddy
I
Krueger
don't
dream.
think he wants anything to do with that situation. All right, so everybody had a question. What tale scared you the most? Do you have one?
What
Hmm.
tale? Like what book or story? That's a
I guess
tricky
it could
one.
be a book, story, movie, show, whichever.
I don't know about the most, but one I always think of when I think of something that terrified me for a long time was when I was a little kid. I watched, well, I read the book and it scared me as well, but I watched the episode of Goosebumps, The Haunted
Yes.
Mask, which is like one of the most iconic
Yes,
books
it
and
is.
episodes of that show. But the TV show, the scene where it's towards the end of the episode and she's running down the street and the masks are floating down the street after her. I didn't sleep for like weeks. Well, I didn't have proper sleep for weeks. I was just mortified. I think I slept in my mum's bedroom on the floor just every night. I couldn't, yeah, every time I like turned the light out, I would just see the faces floating through the dark. It did some damage,
It's
but
like, oh Lord. Yeah,
it's
it's
still
all.
really creepy too. I went back
It
and
is
watched it not
creepy.
long ago, and it kind of holds up. Like, of course, it looks a little bit goofy, but it's still
But
very
still, the
scary.
concept in itself is creepy. Like, so
Mm,
I'm not going to disagree with that one. And Goosebumps had a lot of freaking great episodes, though. So a
great
lot of scary
episodes.
stuff. And Aphrodite had one other question earlier that I don't want to miss it because I won't be able to find it later. What draws you to this genre of horror?
Um, Hopefully it's not too pretentious to say, but I think horror a lot more than it gets credit for in books, particularly,
Mm-hmm.
not so much movies, but in horror books, I think they do most often a better job of like getting real with you rather than like even dramas, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it sounds a bit corny, but I think the realest time you'll ever see a person's like the real side of a person is when they think they're about to die. So that's
True.
when we see the darkest side of people, like their true selves, like whether they would, sacrifice a child to save their own life, kind of thing. That's extreme, but that's like what I'm talking about. That's what I love
Yep.
about horror.
Yep.
It's where you see like the real side of certain characters rather than
Very
just
true.
this hero who always does the
The right
heroic
thing.
thing and he's never
Right.
scared and blah blah blah, that kind
Yep.
of thing. I like seeing vulnerable characters and I like seeing them get hurt sometimes. It's just
This
fun.
is true. I'm with you on that. No lies. Let's see. All right. So let's make sure that anybody else answered the question. At least nobody else has something down here.
What about you? What drew you to horror?
Oh, that's a good one. Really, it's always a good question. I think I grew up watching horror. Like a lot. My
Hmm.
mom was a horror buff, so I never was like, I was a kid and my mom would totally let me watch horror. So me and my brothers were watching horror, and she didn't care. Like she was totally into it. So we was like little kids watching horror and stuff. And the only one she wouldn't let me watch is Dolls because I had lots of dolls when I was a little girl, and that was it. I ended up watching Dolls when I was like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11, and I was like, and I had a nightmare. I see why she let me look at it. I still
Yeah.
had dolls around. So, but I think that might have been the start of it. I was always writing when I was a little girl, so it was kind of always probably in me that I was going to be a writer at the end of the day, and I did not plan like to be a horror writer specifically, and even though I write all these other genres as well, but of course horror is like my thing. But I think it happened like once I started, I was going to figured out I was going to do this writing career thing for real, and because fantasy was my thing.
Hmm.
I'm growing up like reading fantasy was my thing. I'm a big J.R.R. Tolkien fan, like J.K. Rowling. Read all those things. I read all these different writers that are fantasy. My favorite writer is still R.A. Salvatore, and Dritz is my favorite fantasy character in the universe. So it's like I always was leading towards fantasy to begin with. But honestly, I can't even see myself write some epic fantasy because my fantasy wouldn't even be nearly long enough for people. Like it wouldn't happen. Like I see my friends who write like DL Stewart and he writes epic fantasies, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do this. Like I could do
It's a big
world
job,
building and
yeah.
all that, but like you know how epic fantasies are. It's similar to how sci-fi is. It's so extensive and they go into great detail, which I actually like the detail writing thing, but it's kind of like I don't know if I'll ever write something that's that massive and crazy. And horror isn't really the area for worrying about that, because those genres literally worry about that. They're like, this isn't long enough, so I've written it. It's 60,000 words or 70,000 words, and then they go turn it to 105,000. You know what I mean? So they go back and make sure. And those genres kind of really want that and call for that in a lot of cases. Granted, I'm sure some of those walls are being broken these days because of us being self-published authors and things like that. But I think with it drew me to horror because of liking the scary part of it. I like the unexplainable of the darkness that's in a lot of creatures and stuff. And I did notice that currently a lot of my tales are from the monster's perspective. So I think a lot of times I want to like get into the monster's head. And even though my favorite type of horror is cosmic horror and eldritch horror, I like those things because they're unexplainable. A lot of times in those stories, unfortunately, you won't be beating a cosmic being because you just are just too on a nothing of a scale to defeat such a thing, especially if they're going up against humans. And if they're going up against another eldritch being, or if it's cosmic or going up against a cosmic being, then you might see some actual defeating of them. But it's really hard. So I really like that aspects of it. I think I really like the monster aspect of it because I don't really go too much into human horror, I call it. That's my own thing. So human horror, where there's like a thriller line, more like serial killers and stuff. Though I write that stuff and I read that stuff and I've watched all the serial killers and like Hostel and all those ones that got people killing people. So I'm more into monsters and supernatural creatures that are more unbeatable because I like the whole scare of that. Because I'm not a person with heavy fears based around humanistic fears. So when it comes to something that I think that's unbeatable, that has some kind of imaginable power that I couldn't possibly contend with, that's scary to me. Now, when he got humans fighting humans, I don't find that scary. If someone came to attack me, even if I am like, why are you attacking me? And I'm going to fight for my life at this point, I'm not afraid of you on that level because we're the same. Since I see all humans same, you're not, you may be crazy, you may be like someone who can take a knife and just try to hurt someone with it or a gun, but I'm not afraid of you like that. Now, if I come across some entity that's got some kind of like, why they got all them tentacles, I don't know what that's going to do. So I think to me, that's probably why I like writing horror and I'm drawn to it because of the monsters themselves.
I'm kind of the opposite. Like I'm normally much more drawn to like I guess realistic kind of horror,
human monsters. I call them.
paranormal
Of course,
stuff.
Human can be very monster-esque for sure.
I like the paranormal stuff, but normally it just doesn't like scare me. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm more scared by.
I've heard that both ways, so you're not alone.
But all the short story that I'm going to be talking about later today that I wrote. That's probably my first attempt at like cosmic horror.
I really liked it. I was like, oh, I
appreciate that.
I started laughing and clapping at the end. I was like, yes, this is good. I really liked it. I couldn't tell for sure which type of what it was, which made it like really creepy, which was really good. And then Nicole, like, oh man, I can't say anything because I want you to read it for them, but it was really, really good. I really liked it.
It's also the first time I've ever done first person perspective rather than third person. So yeah, I've been trying to really like come out of my comfort zone a bit. So I was like, I'll write a cosmic horror and I'll write it from first person perspective. And the one leeway I'll give myself is that I'll make it really short. And that was
right. It. Good practice. Good practice.
Yeah.
You did really well with it. I really liked it. I thought it was well done. I was very well creeped out as I didn't know what was going on. So you did that very well. So there's no issues with that. So apparently you have it in you, whether you write more of the other side of horror or not. You can dip your toe in this side as well. So.
We'll have to see if the chat agrees, but
yeah, we'll see. I'm sure they will because I'm sure they will because you're a great writer, so you do very well. So I don't think we need to worry. All right, so let's go ahead and let's check the chat real quick, and then we'll do the second topic before we move on to Cam's story for the night. Let's see. The Handmaid's Tale for me. Oh yeah, the scariest story you have read, Tale of Twilight. Scariest book I have read. And Aphrodite, I think Beyond the Door scared me the most. Yeah, you mentioned Beyond the Door before, Aphrodite. So I was way too young to have seen that film. Yeah, I would say there probably was some of those horror movies that I was probably too young to see, but I saw them nonetheless. I saw them nonetheless. See, I think you're right, Cam. Never thought about that. I don't know which one because we missed that one. She probably talking
Yeah.
about when we were talking about the horror one movie. Interesting insight. Yeah, well, we talk about a lot of stuff. The only kind of horror I got into was gothic horror. Yes. I loved VC Andrews and similar stuff. I think because they were real life horror that scared me more than monster tales. You know what I mean? Yes, I do. Definitely know what you mean. I've heard that a lot. It's not like I have not. I'm a big baby when it comes to horror tales. Scream scared me. Oh yeah, Scream scared a lot of people. I mean, when it was new and I was young, when Drew Barrymore was murdered right under her parents' nose by an actual human, Shonda. Yeah, like, and it's like, oh, there's like, okay, that's why it's scary to a lot of people. I'm gonna hold that question till later. Let me see, where are we? Oh, Barrett has joined us. You're cool. No worries. No late here. It's called fashionably late here. It's okay. No worries. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. After I was talking to Ava. Ava says, I watch true crime a lot. Yeah, my mom did that a lot. Let's just say it's a surprise that I even have a child. So she wouldn't want me to go anywhere, especially at night. And I was in my 20s still. It was ridiculous. Anything with jump scares, though, I'm jumping. Oh, so we know what to recommend for you. I used to read R.L. Stein. I love R.L. Stein and Christopher Pike, both good. Growing up until I got into Stephen King. Yeah, there's another legend there. I still have a lot of his work that I haven't read yet. Stephen King keeps bringing them out. He got a new one out that I haven't read yet. I got to get that.
Yeah, Steven's a bit hit or miss for me, which I know
He is
is.
a hit or miss, though. Don't get me twisted. Like and Stephen does write other things besides horror, really. Like he does. Green Mile was him. That's not really horror, so
Shawshank.
um Shawshank Redemption. But yeah, so like he does do some other dibble dabbles, but his horror can be hit or miss. Also, like I always say this, and people are tired of hearing me say it, like, listen, Stephen, I know you're Stephen King, you get long winded, but it is too long. Like the book is
Yeah.
like the Lord of the Rings or something. He thought he's writing epic fantasy, I think. Like, my boy, it's his horror. Like, at the time we get to the end of this, who's afraid anymore? Like, what are you trying to do? You can't creep me out with this. It's too long, Steven. Stop it. Like,
I definitely think his short stories are where he shines the most.
yeah, and I think horror is just perfect for short stories, really. And I know a lot of times, even full-fledged horror novels, in my opinion, usually are good when they're around 40,000 words, and they don't start inching over like into like the later like 70s and stuff like that. So you're like, calm down. Yes, Cam is amazing. Everybody here agrees. So we all know this. So Cam, take your
Too
love.
much flattery.
Poke it in. You'll be okay. Just put it in a jar. Save it for later. Ava said, I have a copy of Local Haunts, so I think I've read something spooky you've written. Yes, this is true. Oh, and Cam's book back there behind him. I loved that book. I did a review for it. And your character, I wanted
I
to punch you
completely
in the face
forgot
sometimes. It was a good
I've
one.
got the
It was
little
really
ones
good.
up there.
It was
Welcome to
good.
Sanya.
It was so good. It had me the whole time. Like I was like, this is really good. I like it.
I appreciate that. It was a really hard one to write.
Was it?
Because, yeah, just psychological horror. It's so difficult to know the balance between the psychological and then the explicitly horror stuff.
You're right.
And I don't really read my reviews so much just because it's
they tell you sometimes
kind of a weird
not
thing to do. Yeah, but at the same time, obviously, I want to like look into criticism, that kind of stuff. And I've heard from some people that gave me some constructive feedback that I really appreciated, and I definitely understand how some of it I probably got a bit too into my own head about the psychological elements, and it slowed down the story and made it a little less scary in some parts. But then I don't know. As far as the debut goes, I think it's
a video review on your book. I gave it 4 stars out of 5, and I think the main character, like, he started getting on my nerves, which is I think is still a good thing, because I always told people, like, when they would say like, oh, some people who have beta read Cagliostro, my story, and one dude was like, I really don't like Cagliostro. He gets on my nerves and this and this and this. I'm like, I'm glad he made you feel something. Like I'm like it doesn't matter. I did my job as a writer. That's it. That's the end of the day. You
Yeah.
know. So
You're meant to hate Joseph Ridley, at least at
right,
the start of the
exactly. Like he's
story.
he getting on my nerves. But like I think with the story, psychological was good. It wasn't that it was bad at all. So it was like I think it was like we were used to it by a certain point. And I think it wasn't that we were used to it, it was that Joseph figured it out maybe sooner than I thought that he would have figured it out, which is fine. But I think that was my only thing. I was like, oh, I think he figured it out sooner than I
That's a
would
fair
have think. And that was, but that's again, that depends on the story and that depends on where you're going. But at the end, you totally got me. I was like, wait, what's cool? I don't know. Like, if is this real? Like,
I was so scared writing that because I was like, am I making this too confusing? Because if this ends up just making people angry because I'm making it too confusing, I'm gonna feel really bad.
Are confused at the end of psychological. So it really depends on what you're doing with it, to be honest. So I mean, I don't think it wasn't a bad ending or anything like that, but it was kind of like I actually like having that question for horror at the end. Like I was generally like, did it happen or wait? Because the dude at the end was kind of like throwing me off a little bit. And I don't get thrown off too often, so kudos to you for throwing me off. And I was like, wait, was it happening? I was like, you starting to get me a little bit, which is a plus, really, when it's psychological. So I still say kudos for that. Great book, especially if you don't write psychological horror on a regular or something, like then that's like good job on that. So keep
I'm glad
keep
I did it. It's just one of those things, you know, as people going to read it, I think it's just not the type of book for people who expect to be scared throughout the entire thing. You're meant to be
and that's the problem. That's like when you're in a relationship and people bring their baggage from their past relationship. We bring baggage from our past books that we've read from that genre because we're kind of like, well, this is how I've read these things, and what are you doing? You know, instead of going into it saying this is how this writer is going to see this, and we don't remember to do that as readers a lot of the time, which could be bad for us to enjoy a book because we're bringing our baggage to this book that has nothing to do with those other books. So you have a valid point about that for sure. So you're not.
Last thing I would say about it is just that I appreciate any and all, you know, feedback, even if it's a 1-star. I don't mind people telling me they hated it as long as they're saying it
so hey, I'm happy.
Not being an asshole, you know,
for no reason whatsoever. Because anytime you are, there's no reason for it whatsoever.
A lot of people on Goodreads can just be complete dicks about their reviews.
Dude, I know. Goodreads is just like they're people like
I
don't know what that is. It's like Goodreads, like there's people just waiting to be like.
I think it's just.
I don't know.
I think it's literally just that some people want to seem funny, so they'll try to make funny anecdotes that are at the end of the day just mean. Like, it's like the author may actually see this. You know, you don't need to completely shit all over them.
It's no need for that. Like, you can still give your opinion if that's what you want to do at the end of the day, but you don't have to be. It's a choice to be an asshole. Let's just be honest. It is. It's no. You don't have to be. You just say your word, say your piece. I think did I finish reading Ava's one that she said. I think I was on. Oh, she got a copy of Local Haunt. So I think I've read something spooky written, Cam, but I don't remember it now. I retain nothing. Well, if it's going to scare you, that's probably for the best.
It was the one about the drop bears.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a spoiler, but there you go.
Yeah,
the Australian drop bears.
I remember that one. It's a good one.
That was so much fun to write. I wanted to write just like a goofy little campfire horror, and that one really hit the spot.
Yeah, I like the themes. The themes really get me thinking. So I really like that. To thank Regina for that. Like,
absolutely.
Thank you. It was just the same to you, Tillery. You're in that book too. I think your name is why I bought it. Didn't know Cam yet. Yeah, she was missing out, man. I know plenty of people was buying it because Cam was in it. Like, Cam's story, and then they get quick in it.
I don't have a lot of stories out there when I really think about it. I think all the short stories I have in anthologies that you are also in. So I think we're in the same amount. I mean, you're probably in more.
I think I'm in the other two. I'm in Served Cold and in Local Haunts. And hopefully I'll make it for this one.
What are the three? So just for the people in the chat, there's Local Haunts, These were done by Regina from Regina's Haunted Library, by the way, in the chat.
Yes,
Fantastic person. And then there was Served Cold, and then there's another one coming out. I don't know if Regina's announced it yet. Sorry, but I won't say anything else. But there is another one coming.
Yes, the third
then there's
installment.
One I did called We're Not Home, which again was
I'm so sad I
Regina.
missed it. I'm That's so sad. Like, I saw your freaking message on Twitter, like after, because Twitter doesn't even give me, like, I don't get notices for Twitter like I do for Instagram and Facebook, and my emails are all directly to my phone. But Twitter is always like hitting, even though I have it directly to my phone. So I was so sad. I'm like, I'm so mad at myself.
That's all right. I think I'm putting the call out for the next one in like July. So.
Awesome. Yeah, please hit me up. I will definitely be all over that. Always ready for all the anthologies. I love putting my stuff in those.
They all support charities too, so it's
I
great
love that.
cause.
Yes, I like that Regina does that. It's awesome. Everyone's giving local haunts some love. Aphrodite's tail was in there. So I can't believe my tail got into the anthology. Yeah, it's our first time her right. And Aphrodite don't, she scares easy. She says Bambi is scary, so. I suppose she said, well, who wouldn't be afraid of being in the woods and it on fire? So that's a valid point. I'm not gonna shake that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the next topic, and then we can get to Cam's story. Sorry if you guys see my signal dropping a little bit. I don't know what that's about because Comcast. That's why. But I am plugged in. I always am. But sometimes it's like, listen, we're Comcast, so your signal's going to suck tonight. So what horror movie would you recommend to really scare a person or to creep them out? Like, you're trying and you want them to be scared. So what movie would you recommend? It could be a show too.
The obligatory one I always say is 1408. It's adapted from a Stephen King short story, and I think the movie is actually way better. It's probably my favorite horror movie ever, not because I think it's the best horror movie ever, but it's just one I saw when I was younger, and it directly inspired Welcome Descent, the book I showed before. I'm not going to plug it again, I promise, but it directly inspired that one. But I talked about that video, that movie in like every video I've ever made, so I'll say another one. There's a movie called Oculus that I think is really
Oculus. I remember that one.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and I feel like it's not known by that many people.
Mm-hmm. Always the underrated ones.
Yeah, even though the actress in it is pretty famous, she played Nebula in like the Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. She's in it, and it's one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen, but also it also has that kind of fun popcorn horror feeling as well. So I highly recommend it. Oculus. It's great.
See, Cam's trying to scare you all very well. Now, see, my scary is going to be like a little different because of like what I find scary, I'm really into Japanese horror, and I grew up with Japanese culture and stuff. So Japanese horror was always where it was at, like The Grudge, The Ring, really called Ringu. And so I have one. It's an actual compilation of 3 horror movies. It's a horror collection. So it's 3 short horrors in this movie set. And one particular on this movie set, and I think the original name for it, so let me pull it up, make sure I have it correct. It's called Kowa Ona, which is just translates to scary woman. And all of the tales are like these creepy women creatures and spirits or whatever, which Japan is known for and Asian horror is known for. So the one on that particular collection is called Rattle Rattle. That's got to be one of the most creepiest things that I would have to tell someone to watch because of this creepy woman thing. I don't know. And like it's also psychological because spoiler, I'm going to spoil it for you because some people don't look at this stuff. But the girl in it, like she goes to this building, ends up in this building, and she falls. I think she's walking. She's walking below this building, and something falls and hits her. And then right after that, this woman is like chasing her, this spirit, and she's like in a red dress and she has the long black hair, obviously. And then she like she's really creepy and she disfigured. Okay. So she's like trying to get away. Like you cannot get away from this woman, okay? And like everywhere she goes, she's there. So she even runs to like the police station type of thing in Japan, and then like there's no cop in there, and then she goes in there, and then she's like up in the ceiling in the corner, and she's like screaming, she's trying to run away, and then like she runs and runs and runs to try to escape her, and she gets worse and worse, like her disforming and stuff. It gets worse as time goes on, and there's no getting away from her. So she goes into the building, into where the building was, that she ended up having an accident and ended up like hurt. So she runs into the building and the thing is still chasing her, and she ends up in this specific apartment that's all like you see like all this red hanging fabric and stuff, and then the red woman's in there, and she's like the worst she could be at this point. Like her arms are scratching, her head is doing weird things, and then this attachment goes on with her head, and then it's like, okay, this is messed up. I can't get away from this thing. She didn't really. She fall. Something happens where she gets out and she actually escapes the thing, and she's fine. Like she wakes up in the hospital or something, and then she's okay. For some reason, she goes back to this building, but the daytime. Okay, so she goes back to the building and goes up there, and there's like a kid or something, but I don't think the kid was really end up being there. And then she on the balcony, and then the red woman is like, duh, like why wouldn't she be back here? Oh, she thought it was fake. It didn't really happen. It was all in my head. Stop thinking stuff is in your head sometimes, because sometimes maybe in case you should have believed that. So anyway, so she gets pushed by the red woman. I mean, that's probably the least thing she could have done to her. And then she falls and hits something and she dies. She hits herself. So at the beginning, when she got hit and hurt by a woman falling on her, it was herself. So then she's like formulated into herself from the other time. So it's like a really mess.
Oh.
It's a bloody mess. It's terrible. Like anybody who had to clean that up is terrible. You don't want to see that. So it's like, okay, so it was happening. It really was. So it's psychological, and it's that. So I'm like, that's one of the I would tell somebody to watch. We know Aphrodite would never watch this. For sure. She probably freaking out in the cat, like, stop telling me. All right, so let's see what everyone else said to the question. All right, let's see. Hey, RC. RC said a French horror film. Oh yeah, what's that? Martyrs. How do they say that? Martyrs. Martyrs. I think it is. That movie will ruin your week. I've seen the movie, but I never could get this name right. Like ever. I never could get the name right. Let's see. 13 Ghosts. That was really good. I like 13 Ghosts. Terrified me the entire time. Entrapped, angry ghosts. I was disturbed.
I haven't watched a lot of Japanese horror, but I recently read a lot of like horror manga from Japan, and it's some of the best horror I've read.
They go hard in the paint. Like there's no. They can get twisted. They go hard in the paint. So it's like you can get some really good horror. I like Junji Ito. He does some.
Yeah, Junji has the best stuff for sure. I read this one called Hideout by I think it's Masasumi Kakazaki.
Yes, I know that one.
Great. Like, just creepy as hell, though. I think I'm going to make a video about it, but...
Yeah, it's good. I did watch your one video you were talking about this one comic series that's so
Crust,
gory.
yeah.
Yes, dude. I looked into that after you had that video. I'm like, oh my God.
You don't even have to read it. If you just go to Google Images and turn the safe search off.
I had to get it. I'm like, this is crazy.
Just look up the covers for the Crossed comics, and just the covers alone
nothing.
Insane.
I was like, wow. You thought that's the first time I actually heard of it. And I was like, thanks, Cam.
Yeah, well, I don't think they can advertise those on the internet or in bookstores.
I don't think
the artwork is just so graphic.
It is very graphic. And the cover's like, I'm going to tell you everything. You know what you're getting into.
Yeah, they don't hold back.
They do not. Not at all. Barrett said, I got spooked by The Exorcist and Poltergeist. I think a lot of people did because of them, basing. I think The Exorcist is based off of true events, and then the Poltergeist might be as well because of hauntings and all that. And then I think because the one exorcism that happened with the girl, and a lot of them are based off of exorcism, like the exorcism of Emily Rose and stuff like that. I've seen all the exorcism possession movies that they have. Well, it's horror. I've seen it. It doesn't really matter what kind of horror it is. I watch it. So yes, RC, thank you. Hello, Cam. You have another visitor.
Hello.
Yay.
Yeah, I know them. They comment on my videos sometimes.
Awesome.
Good to see you.
Thanks for joining. The David Cronenberg movie, Crime of the Future. Have I seen it? It's coming out. Okay, I haven't seen that. It's coming out next week. Ticket is already bought. I know you and you're going to the movie to see the things. He's always telling like, here's a ticket. I'm ready to go.
See it on the big screen.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. I don't remember the last horror I've seen on a big screen. It's been a long time.
I think mine was the newest Conjuring movie, which was.
Oh, did you see that in the theaters? I didn't see it in theaters. But I do like The Conjuring, though. It's a good one.
It was okay.
This one didn't turn out that well? Was it kind of tired of it at this point? Like, it's like you need to stop?
I just feel like they're kind of turning these two, paranormal investigators, if you can even call them that. I feel like they're kind of turning them into action heroes, and it just feels a little bit silly, but,
is that what's going on? Yeah, I mean, I guess they was kind of leading into that a little bit. Like, because sometimes you do need to stop. Yeah. Like, you keep making sequels, you're going to write yourself into a corner at some point, unless you already planned this from the beginning for this to end this way on whatever number you're going to end it on. So you got to be careful with that. Like, if you don't have an idea for the end already, because even though I write series, I already know the end of my series. Now I have to get there, but I already know the end of my series. Like, it's up to me. You need to, because you got to be careful that you don't write yourself into a situation, supernatural, that you just don't like to stop. Sometimes you got to stop. No, Aphrodite last time I was like supernatural. She was like, oh, I'm going for supernatural. Like, I love supernatural because I love me some Dean. Like, okay. But I still was like, y'all need to stop because you're writing yourself into a hole. And they were the perfect example of you need to stop. Because
it was the same story arc every season. It's just one of them dies, like, and then the next season it's them trying to bring one of them back.
Right, and then like, oh, he went to hell. It's his turn to go to hell. Oh, he died. He's back. He went
to purgatory this time. Oh,
and it's like then they brought God in, and then the darkness. It was the sister, and I was like, okay, are they going to fight God in the darkness? And then it was like, yeah, and then they do all the things, and then everything. I'm like, and then he gets killed by a vampire.
I'm not a religious person myself, but I have to imagine that
any entity
Catholics are very pissed off at the show that made God a villain and if they were talking about the
Christian God, I'm sure Christians would be like would be very angry, but I doubt they were watching the show because they'd be very, especially the zealot Christians. I mean, some Christians probably did. I mean, I'm Christian goth, but I'm not. I love Jesus, but I say fuck, as they say. That's a nice saying. So there's a saying for that, but it's like you have to, if that's going to bother you, then you need to reevaluate you. It's fiction. Calm down. All right. It's supernatural. Calm down. Like, stop bringing your belief system into books and movies and film. Calm down. Unless your story is about that, you need to relax. Like learn to take a joke, to learn to take fiction. I don't know what to tell you because I've heard a million times. I said, I write about vampires and werewolves and other creatures, and I'll have a Christian zealot be like, oh, I don't mess with that stuff. I'm like, what stuff? Like, what are you talking about? But whatever. But I'm assuming that a lot of people did get upset. I didn't get upset about that. I got upset that they were like, what, as a writing aspect, like, where are we going with this? If these dudes can fight a god, it doesn't matter what god you're portraying. You just put a god against a human being at this rate, okay? Yes, they're and then their humans has been inhabited by God's angels because that's what the show did, and then they're like just hosts for those angels that work for God. So we're going to be like, okay, they're going to fight God in the darkness that we don't know nothing about really. So then we're going to be like, okay, now, but I had a problem with, we're going to go back to vampires. and then they're going to get beaten by a vampire. They just literally just fighting God in the darkness. Are we worried about vampires? Like, they should be able to take a vampire out, no problem. So when Dean, or if they get beat by a vampire, which this did happen, like, how did he gets killed by a vampire after he was fighting? I just couldn't let it go. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? Like, yelling at the writers.
Technically, and big spoiler alert for Supernatural, by the way, but technically he got beaten by a rusty nail. So,
well, yes, this is true, and that's even worse. If we break it down like that, this is true. I think I've seen a meme about that.
The ending of Supernatural was absolute dog shit.
Well, you knew that was going to happen. This is what I mean. Like, when it needs to stop, because you're just going to just go out with a whimper at this point, because you already been down to not even a flame at this point. Like, you're just you're nothing.
They actually made a really poor decision from a storytelling standpoint as well. Not
True.
that I'm in a position to be, telling the writers of a hit TV show how to do their jobs, but there's one thing they did towards the end of the series, and again, spoiler alert, that I think is just the worst storytelling decision they could possibly make. And it was that they decided to make it canon that the only reason Sam and Dean survived as long as they did was because God was protecting them the entire time. And then God stopped his protection. And then all of a sudden they struggled to kill one vampire. And I'm like, okay, so we're being led to believe that through at least 4 or 5 seasons, they weren't actually good at what they were doing. Like, the Sam and Dean that we knew weren't actually the Sam and Dean we knew. They were just two guys who had magical suits of armor. I hated that.
Like, yeah, I knew. See, that's the
armor,
problem,
obviously, but
and that's the problem with bringing God that they portrayed into the story, and then you say those type of things, and then you're like, oh, is that what was happening? Okay, then it's gonna make some people upset. Like, you gotta really know. I think they just wrote themselves into a corner, and they just didn't know what to do anymore. There's lots of shows that like that they want to keep they want to make that money. I mean, I get it. They want to keep making that money, and I'm sure the dudes playing the parts, like Jensen, they both were tired. They were like, can we just but this money's good. Though.
Well, they're making a new spin-off show now about the parents when they were younger.
Do we really need to do a prequel?
Apparently they do. It's called The Winchesters, and it's going to be about the parents becoming hunters or so. I don't know.
Dude, why
I agree with R.C. Scott, though. I think it should have ended after Sam jumped into the cage in season 5?
I think it was 5 or 6. It needed to end around 5 or 6. I think that was it. Like, they needed to just be like, okay.
I think it was a good natural ending.
End on a good note. I don't know. I like Supernatural. Don't get me wrong. And I watched all of it, but I just kind of got tired of it for a while. It was like, just like I was a fan of True Blood because I'm a big vampire fan. And I liked True Blood at first, like the first 2 seasons. And then it just started writing itself off into a tangent. Like, honestly, can you please just stop? You're going downhill. No, we're just going to keep going. I'm like, so it's like
the only vampire thing I actually ever enjoyed was Lost Boys, that 80s movie.
Oh yeah, Lost Boys. I like Lost Boys. Lost Boys is a good one.
So good. It took me way too long to realize that the movie was called Lost Boys because they never grow old, like Peter Pan's Lost Boys.
Right, like Peter Pan.
Went completely over my head.
So I missed the point of that one. That's good. But yeah, Lost Boys is a good one. It's not. I think if I recommended a vampire movie for someone to watch, I probably would say Subspecies. Is a sub movie of the Subspecies series called Vampire Journals, and the vampire, and I thought he was very great depicted vampire on there. So it's from the Subspecies series is really from a villain style vampire, really. But in this sub movie in the genre is another vampire who goes against one of the vampires in the main story. So he kind of actually he kills him in this, which is really good because you kind of want him to get killed. But so that's a really good one that I own. I would actually recommend that. And I think I've recommended it on some of my horror movie lists before. And I usually recommend people who don't watch vampire stuff to maybe get into the more vicious vampire style stuff and not the romanticized ones, because you're not a big vampire fan. You might not like the romanticized vampire stuff. So I probably would recommend 30 Days of Night, because very much kill. I'm going to destroy you. We're very ravenous. We're very messy. Blood's all over our faces, and we're just evil and destroy everything. We
I
don't
don't
like the
necessarily
sun.
hate like the romanticization of vampires. Oh, like I wasn't a huge Twilight fan. I think they probably
Yeah,
did
that
go a
was
little
just a
bit silly with
light.
that one. But uh, I think Dracula's always kind of been uh,
It's a
the
classic.
most
You can't.
romantic that a
Yeah.
monster could possibly be. Like, I mean, he's the suave,
Yep.
ageless, mysterious,
I mean, yeah.
rich person in his
And his
mansion up on
story
the hill.
itself
Like,
is like romantic styled because of,
yeah,
you know, him, with him. The reason why they even started the whole thing, at least apart from the Dracula line with the sun, if you're not really a vampire that's related to Dracula, the sun burning you wouldn't really make that much sense because it really much just stems from him cursing God in this case,
hmm.
and then the sun burning him for that reason. And it still did not render him completely to dust just because he saw it for like a few seconds. It wasn't really to that degree at the time. So it's kind of like if you was vampires that was like supposed to be before Dracula, which there were vampires that was before Dracula, then it really wouldn't necessarily make sense that the sun will hurt you. So like Dracula was
Or make you
romanticized.
sparkle.
Yeah, or make you sparkle, which I'm like, I always tell people too about that. Like, she didn't come up with that. That is from Bull Vampire lore is in there about
Hmm.
their bodies being heart and then like diamonds. And their
Right.
representation of trying to show it in the movies probably wasn't very good production value. But it being sparkly would be the fact of the sun hitting a diamond because diamonds like to sparkle in the sun.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be representation of their bodies being heart. But again, you could take Twilight or you could leave it. I liked Twilight, but I liked Twilight for just being a vampire tale. Also, I already knew it was going to be a romance and what was going to occur from that, from being a vampire fan of romanticized vampires. So it's like, you know what's going to happen here. Now, if you just don't like Twilight, you should not like Twilight. What I have a problem with is when people start not liking Twilight for human issues. I'm like, if you keep bringing up human issues while you're watching Twilight, I don't have anything for you because
It wasn't really
you can't bring that into the conversation. Like, he's too old for her. He's 110 or 17 and she's 17. I'm like, okay, but he's a vampire. So I don't think you know any vampire human relationships that exist in the real world. So until you do, then we can have that conversation.
Yeah, it wasn't really my cup of tea, but I'm definitely not one of those people who
like going in hard in the paint.
Ravenous about how much they hate it. Like,
Some
it
people
was
go a
that
little
bad.
crazy. I'm like, calm down. I just can't. Like, well, I like vampires. I don't sparkle. I like the vampires from Buffy and Angel. I'm like, look, I also watch all Angel and all of Buffy because it's vampires. But let's just not try to act like those were the best vampires because when you
They
start,
were corny as hell.
they
I
were
mean, I love
corny,
them, but they
like
were so corny.
killing them with like my number 2 pencil over here, or like kicking a chair that probably wasn't even real wood, and then stabbing them in the heart and they turn to dust. Like, can we still stop trying to make vampires turn to dust because they got stabbed with a piece of wood? Can we at least leave it to the sun? Can we at least do that? No.
Talking about having like a sexualized vampire, Buffy had a punk rock vampire with bleach blonde spiked hair, which was like
Spike,
the thing at the time. So,
yeah,
and he
everybody
was
liked
cool
Spike
and
at the
everything,
time.
but
That's the 90s, like,
he was meant to be sexy for sure.
He had to be. It was Spike, man. I love Spike. Yeah, everybody in my age. I'm a goth chick, so I like Spike. He coming in with that black long coat and the blonde hair. It's over. Whatever Spike says, like.
Yeah, I wanted to be him so bad when I was a kid.
Right?
I was like, damn, that guy's the coolest.
He's so cool. Want to get that leather jacket? Like, come on, man.
Dyed my hair blonde once, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't pull it off. It's not for me.
I've tried it. This isn't working. Yeah, everybody loves Spike. Spike is awesome, right? All right, so everybody answered our topic, so we're gonna move into the next segment and get Cam to read his awesome short story. So let me pull that up for everyone. Did you want to read from the screen that I put up, Cam? So I'll make it larger.
That's all right. I got 2 screens here. I'll
cool. All right, as I always ask that. But I'm gonna make it big for everybody up on the screen, so we'll have to go into screen share.
No one's ever read or heard this one before, aside from
yay! I feel special. Here. It's on my show.
It's one of the short stories I'm putting together for a collection, but
Yay.
I feel like I need a few more. I thought it was done, but it's still on the short side, so I want to come up with a few more stories first.
Cool. I feel you on that. I have a short collection myself, so I'm like, I need to probably put a few more stories up in here. So I feel you on that aspect, trying to figure that one out. All right. So, what kind of critique would you like? I saw you did give me. I think you said that anything anyone wants to throw at you.
Look, I'll be honest with you, and this goes to people in the chat too. I'm very chill about feedback. Like, as long
Yes,
as
he
you're not
is.
being an asshole about it, like you can
Exactly.
tell me that you think the whole thing doesn't work. I'll take that on board. I'm not saying I'll throw it in the trash, but I'll listen to any feedback, good or bad, positive, negative, as long as you're not, mean
Yeah.
about it.
Don't worry,
That's all.
Cam. We don't allow that here. The Mrs. Report
Yeah,
doesn't go for that.
I don't get the impression that's going to happen, but I just want people to know you can be as honest as you like. If there's
Yes.
something about it that you hate, let me know.
Them
Although
know.
it's very, very short, so there's not a whole
It
lot there.
is. It's really good though. I liked it a lot. So the Mrs. Report says it, then it must be true. I'm just telling you. All right, let me get ready here. Let me pull the document, make sure I got it at the bottom of the screen. So when I do screen share,
If anyone's read any of my other stuff, this will feel a bit different too, because it's my first attempt at cosmic horror, and it's also my first attempt at writing from a first-person perspective. So it might be a little bit wonky, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right, let me do screen share.
I'm also not a very good narrator, so you'll just have to bear with me there. I don't want any feedback about my narration, okay? That there's no room for change there, so there's no point.
I can't help you guys there. Just take what you get. All right. All right, I'm going to pull up your tail, and everyone can let me know in the chat if they can see it clearly. All right, so whenever you are ready, Cam, I will let you take it away.
All righty. I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can, but I think it'll be around 5 to 6 minutes, just so people know.
5 to 6 minutes, okay. I'm going to try to mute out. 1 second for me real quick. I don't want to make any noise.
Good to go? Alrighty. It's been at least 2 years now. 2 years since we first saw them in the clouds. The first sighting was in Berlin. It was all over the news for days. Some small family were getting their farm sorted for the day, and then they looked up and they saw it. Mostly everyone thought it was a hoax, of course. I did. I mean, they usually are, aren't they? Then, less than a week later, a few of them could be seen above the city of Stockholm in Sweden. It was a lot harder to deny it then. The internet was flooded with videos and photos from every angle you can imagine. It was as easy as whipping out your phone and looking up after all. I have to admit, I was still skeptical. I thought it was maybe holograms or a freaky special balloon. A lot of people thought that. The truth is that there are very few ways to make sense of those things up there. It wasn't until they started covering the entire world that people started taking it seriously. It wasn't until they were above me that I did. Giant black clouds that floated across the sky in whatever direction they pleased, too dense for sunlight to shine through, but never spitting out a drop of rain. In just over a year, most of the world went into a rolling shadow, but that wasn't the worst of it. The worst part wasn't even the relentless heat that the strange weather brought with it. I thought it would be colder, or the way crops struggled to grow in the constant shade. No, the worst part was the creatures on top of those dark clouds. I was in my home the first time I saw them. I'd heard about them on the news, seen the conspiracy videos in my YouTube feed, rolled my eyes at the endless tweets, but I never paid too much attention. I was trying to stop my dog Dart from getting into the pantry when I spotted the sweeping black through the window. I thought it was a storm, so I went to close the back door, and then I saw it. I think I damn near shit myself. Half the sky was filled with scattered smears of darkness, and on one of the closest clouds it sat, a giant, skinless monster. Its body was simply groups of bunched muscle and tendon, glistening even in the gloom. It almost looked human, but the head was a little too large, its limbs just a little too long. The creature's eyes gleamed as it looked left and right, as slow as a wounded snail. It never looked down. None of them ever do. It simply scanned the clouds, perhaps searching for one of their kind. I ran inside so fast I nearly broke my toe on the table. I locked every door and hid under the bed with my heart damn near bursting from my fucking chest. like that would have done any good if it came down from above. I must have laid there for hours wondering if I'd lost my mind. I wanted to get up and double check that I saw what I saw, but my legs wouldn't take me. I think I knew then that it was real. No hologram or balloon had eyes like that. They couldn't move like that. You can imagine that before long, every military in the world were working on getting rid of those things. I doubt they spent too much time on it at all before they just decided on a full offensive. The media were told not to televise it, but of course they did. Even if they hadn't, there were more live streams from people's phones than you could watch in a lifetime. All over the world, in almost perfect unison, the sky above less densely populated areas ignited with fire and the screams of jets, helicopters, and missile carriers. No one pulled any punches. Well, perhaps except for the nukes. Thank God no one was stupid enough to start setting off nukes. All eyes were on Russia for a while there. Over the course of a full day, we all saw more globally coordinated combat than the world had ever experienced. And those fucking things didn't even blink. Their clouds remained solid and they just lay there, looking left and right across the sky's gloomy horizon as it turned red with firepower and fury. They never flinched, not even to defend themselves. They didn't need to. No bullet, laser, or missile left a mark on their exposed organs. No one knew what to do. They kept trying for a while, but it never did anything, really. We waited, terrified of retaliation, but as far as the experts could tell, the creatures didn't even know we exist. Then the world leaders started asking a different question. Are we even in any danger? I'm not sure when exactly it happened, but eventually people just started going back to their lives. Employees were called back into work, the army went back to shooting at people, even passenger planes started flying between countries again, albeit on much tighter routes. People still avoid looking up and dogs still go crazy, but we're moving on. I'm sure there's still huge sections of every government known to man dedicated to keeping an eye on those things, but what can anyone even do? Apparently they're immortal. They never eat or drink. They don't sleep or shit. They just float around day and night. Even I'm starting to think maybe this is just the world now. Something's different today. I felt it as soon as I woke up. I think everyone did. It's hard to describe. It's like a feeling in the air. Something is just off. I'm at work serving coffees and bagels, and I can see something in the face of every customer that hands me cash. It's like they're worried that something's going to happen. A slight crease in the eyebrows, an anxious glint in their eyes. Something is definitely not right. I was wrapping up for the day, unloading the dishwasher and emptying the display case when I heard something. Yells, running, maybe even a scream. I could see some commotion outside despite the lack of light. Naturally, I dusted off my hands and rushed out to see what the hell was going on. Some people were running into buildings. Cars were swerving around each other and screeching off down the street. Right outside our cafe, a large group of people were yelling and covering their mouths with their hands. I still couldn't see the cause of the chaos until I noticed they were all looking up. I followed their eyes to see those dark, unnatural clouds high above, as dense and black as they'd always been. The creatures were still there too, but something was different. Those bulging, penetrating eyes weren't scanning the heavens anymore. They were looking down. All of them were looking down. They leaned forward on their platforms of shadow and watched as people scurried this way and that. Their mouths rolled open and they groaned. There were 3 of those skinless things above us, and they were all wailing and rising. Their gigantic, glistening arms reached down, coming closer than they ever had been. I could see cords of muscles squirm and stretch, blue and red veins pulsed and gleamed. I ran inside like everyone else, and now I'm sitting under a table with my stomach in my throat. I don't know what to do. I don't even want to look. I cover my ears, but I can hear them. God help us all. They've finally seen us. Finn.
Loved it. Like, I seriously get chills when he said they were looking down. I'm like, oh shit.
Man, that's exactly what I was going for. I'm glad to hear that.
Good job. I was like, look, everybody's like, oh my god. All right, so let me give you my critique real quick. It's pretty much what I told you about already. Wait, let me pull this one down.
Hopefully that didn't take me too long to read out.
Oh no, you're perfect. It's good. You're all good. Let's see. So the I was hooked from the start, intrigued. The detention, very well done. A POV fit perfectly because the first person perspective really gets you, in my opinion, gets you really into horror. Especially when you really want to get people scared. Um, So like when you want them, some people don't get scared that way, but I think it works really well, especially for the creepy, because you're kind of get really into the character's head, like a little bit more with her person perspective.
I felt like
Um,
for that kind of cosmic horror angle, I needed to do it
yes,
from first person just so
yes.
you could really be there with the character
Yeah,
experiencing it.
because then that's that whole part about when they look down. Like if it wasn't
Mm,
from that character's perspective, I don't think that it wouldn't
yeah,
have gave the chill as easily. It still probably would have been
right.
chilly because I mean they looking down. That's no good. Um, but I think it worked out really well. So really kudos to the
Thank you.
POV pick. Description was spot on, just enough so you could see, but enough held back that you imagining as well, which is perfect mixed in my opinion. And I actually smiled at the end when I first read this, so bravo to that. So you got me smiling when I'm reading horror. That's nothing but a plus in my book. Let's see what
I
everyone in
love
the
that.
chat had to say. So it was really good. I was like, yeah, I can't wait for this to come out. I'm so buying it. I don't care what it's in. I'm buying it. I don't even know what the other tales are. I'm sure they're good, but I'm buying it just so I can say I own this story. All right, so let's
Not to
see.
toot my own horn, but some of the short stories I've got sitting here ready to go, I'm very proud of, and I'm very
Yay,
excited for
I'm
people to read.
excited. I'm excited for when you release it. I'm all ready. I'm ready. Beck said, you now have to show us blonde Cam. Yeah,
I
we
don't
want
have
to
any
see it,
pictures of
Cam.
that. They've been burned from the internet. They've been purged.
He's ready to purge. It's over. Well, Cam, at least you were born with the cool accent already. True. Spike actor was from Texas. I felt like, yeah, apparently they said people from like the country over here, like they could do accents like that from
Hmm.
other places easier, which I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't think I would be able to. I'm from Maryland, and they say we have a accent, which I wouldn't be able to hear. But when anybody came from Europe or like Britain or something, and I'll be working in retail, and I'm like, I love your accent. They're like, I didn't really realize I have one because it doesn't sound like it to my ears. And he's like, I like yours. I'm like, I have an accent.
I love how many different accents there are in the US.
Right?
It's
There
crazy.
apparently is so many. And I was like, it's so weird. So weird. I didn't even know of this until someone said their husband was from Maryland. I was buying
Hmm.
from their store and I was over the phone. And she said, Are you from Maryland? And I said, Yeah. And she said, That's before she even knew. She was like, Oh, because you have the same accent as my husband because he's from Maryland. I was like, I have an accent? Shock. It was a news flash. I had no idea. She said, I cannot handle it, or she was trying to get a like she needed to be warned first. Like Aphrodite, you can't handle any horror. You said Bambi's scary, so I'm gonna say no to everything. Look, she was like, when you said Cosby, she's like, I'll be back. Oh, it's funny. All right, so everybody saw it up there when they were reading it. Everybody's ready to be spooked. Scary spirits of darkness. Wow, what I want Cam to read my stuff now. I know, right? Description is spot on. Was great. I've read H.P. Lovecraft for its cosmic horror. Yes, I'm a big H.P. fan. Yeah, I know. See people being creeped out while you were reading. Aphrodite's like, oh my god. Yep, Barrett gave you a wow. You got
Someone
all kinds
mentioned
of
Junji
snaps.
Ito before, and
Yes,
he was a big inspiration for his story about the with the balloons that
yes,
have the heads on them and the
yes.
nooses. That was one of the biggest inspirations for that short story.
Wow.
I just
Good
wanted
like
something
inspiration for that.
that's just kind of covering the whole world and has everyone freaked out.
I
Anyway,
think
keep
that's
going.
really
Sorry.
cool. I loved it. No, no, no. We love to hear you talk about it and your inspirations. That's what we're here for. We're here to shine the light on you, so it's all good. All right. So yeah, look at Aphrodite like, God help us all. Yeah, really. Like we all be like, well, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Listen to the facts of it. What are we gonna do? Regina said excellent, and this is so
Ah,
true.
it's high
So
praise.
excellent.
Thank you.
Right. Barrett said that's so good. Everybody like, don't look at me. I mean, I would be saying that too. um, um, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to butcher it. So I'm just going to say that's publishing. That I've read H.P. Lovecraft for his cosmic horror. Cam, your short story is very clear and definitely cosmic horror. Loved it. Yes. Because I mean,
Thank you. I
those
appreciate
creatures
that.
really though. I was like, oh my goodness, with these creatures, like, why are they up there? This is not good for anybody. I would not want to be in this world. I like the cosmic horror. I've learned so much about the genre watching this series. Yeah, I'll talk about it a lot. That's like my thing. I love talking about it. The POV choice is perfect. Yes, that's what I was saying. It was spot on. The atmosphere is on point. I could feel the anxiety and fear. Yes, definitely. I like the part where the humans were going back to trying to live with the beings on the sky, because that's what humans would do. Cam is so right about that. No matter what we have going on, it'd be something crazy just like looming over us. We'll be like, well, time for you to go back to school, Timmy. And Jane, you're coming back into work. Like, do you want to be fired? So we'd all go back to what we were doing, and it'd be like something looming right over our heads. So that was very realistic, and I liked it. It made me very much think of COVID. I was like, no
I
matter
was
what's
about to
going on,
say, I started this before the pandemic, but after
that
the
worked out.
pandemic broke out, I was like, I can kind of see some parallels here, you know?
Right. And
Obviously,
people
it's very
would.
different to like immortal cloud dwelling beings,
Right.
but
But still, I still felt that. Like when I was reading, I was like, this is very, like, humans have proved it. They will.
trying
Like,
to live with stuff that
no
we
matter what, we're
have to,
going to
you know?
continue to live with things. Even when something seems very dim and terrible, eventually
Mm.
we'll push through. And I mean, humans are very resilient, so I will give them that. But yes, so all positive stuff here so far. It makes me excited for a tale when the writer's excited. I know, right? That really helps. I love how you jumped right into the story, grabbed me from the start. Yes, it definitely did. There was no like time to even think. You're like, oh God, am I actually here? Please don't let me be there.
And I loved writing that. I loved I didn't have to worry about fluff. You don't really know anything about the character at all,
Right.
other than the fact that she's scared. So I feel like she's perfect for you to put yourself into.
Right. And you don't even need to know about the character to feel their fear,
Mm.
which was
That's the beauty of
really
short
good.
stories.
Right though,
So
if it's
much
done
freedom.
right, and horror
Mm.
seems to be the place, in my opinion, to go for. I really couldn't imagine, and I'm sure there are people that can do it because
Mm.
I don't know for sure that I could, but maybe fantasy shorts. That's like that kind of short. Now I could write you a short horror in very little bit of words, but I'm not sure I could do it with fantasy. So maybe there are fantasy writers
That
that
would probably be
can.
the hardest
That would be the
genre to
hardest in
do.
my opinion, because how you going to get the world building and all the things that usually takes to make
Yeah.
a fantasy, you know what I'm saying? So I think horror fits very well because you don't have to always give away what the creature is about. You don't always have to let people know where they came from. You don't have to do all these things in horror because that is sometimes in itself scary, the unknown, and that could just reach in and out of different aspects of horror. Really, you don't know why that guy decided he was going to be a serial killer and kill all these people, or why they made a hostel that they wanted to just like murder people. And like, you don't necessarily find out why these people are crazy. We'll just say they're crazy, but we don't really know the insides of what they were thinking. And in
Yeah. Plus,
horror, that's okay.
horror works best as well when you can read it in one sitting, because there's nothing worse than
Agreed.
like having to stop reading the horror and then you might go and have dinner or go to work, whatever, and come back
Right.
and you have to start feeling scared from the start again. Like, I'm saying this as someone who tried to write a horror novel. I will, but that's the thing with horror. There's a lot of different subgenres as well. Psychological horror is very
Yes,
different to like slasher horror.
it is
um,
very much.
but
So
I
many
definitely
different kinds.
prefer reading and writing short horror stories.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's why it's like I think show horror collections are very ideal because you could get a lot of different types of horror in some cases, or maybe it may
Mm.
be a theme, the base one, or it might be specific to a certain type of horror. But still you're getting these different stories and you get to be scared or creeped out, or the fear. You feel what the story's trying to give you instead of like the lengthiness, like you said, you're gonna
Mm.
stop and then go here and there. And I think Edgar Allan Poe mentioned that, but he
Mm.
said it was meant to be read in one setting, is what he says.
And it's so
But
much
you are
fun
right.
too.
It is, right? I totally agree. It definitely is. We have at least 5 in Merlin alone. Yes. Yes, we do. Talking about the monsters. We have a lot of different like folk tales and stuff here. So I think one was the Goat Man or some crazy stuff. Like, really.
I don't think we really have a lot in Australia. We have drop
Really?
bears, and I know the Indigenous Australians have a lot of mythology,
Yeah.
but the rest of us, we don't have much to go off, to be
Really?
honest. We
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 have
just
what you
have
can.
people that live out in the middle of nowhere that kidnap backpackers.
That's
Ever seen Wolf Creek?
yes, of course. So that's what it's based off of.
That
It's
kind
based
of
off of
stuff.
that? Yeah,
I think it
I wouldn't
happened
want to be
once in
there.
the 80s, but
I
it's
wouldn't.
not a it's not a rampant thing, but we like to tell backpackers it is.
They're like, they won't
just
be
to scare
doing
them.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't be doing that. Like, I wouldn't. You wouldn't have to tell me what part of that, and I'd be like, "Yep, no worries."
Yeah. Watch out for the rusty trucks on the highway, mate. You'll be right.
It'd be like, well, thank you for that information. I'd be like,
Don't run out of
seeing rusty
fuel.
trucks to be afraid. Like, no, please. And the moment when the monsters looked down, yes, I know, right? That was it. I was clapping at the end, like, oh my god, like that had me. I'm telling you. Yeah, I know. I say Maryland. I can't help it. It's the accent. Everyone says like that's Maryland. Like, okay. But I said, wow, that worked really well. It did. It's so good. Causing horror, creepy as well.
A lot of compliments.
I know, right? You're getting it.
I really appreciate it. I hope people don't feel like they have
It's
to hold
patting him
back.
on the back. Are you gonna be able to fit your head through the door after this? Like,
it's all right.
It'll
I do very well at bringing my own ego back down again.
Yes, don't we all? This is true. So we'll just have to have regular sessions with Cam, so that way we can just make his head big every day.
I mean, it might help.
Yeah,
Stephanie's definitely
hey,
making me feel like
we
writing
all need
now.
to hear the positive, in my opinion, especially because we could be our worst critic. I know I'm my worst critic, and so it's always nice to hear when someone likes something that I've created. So
Yeah,
it's a
it is
positive
nice.
thing. Nice to hear. No one needs to hear that negative stuff all the time. It's no good. We already negative on ourselves enough. We don't need that.
Yeah.
Barrett said totally would try to move on with my life as normal. I mean, in some cases, what choice do you have? I mean, what are you going to do? Like, they're up there, like, you know, what's going to happen? The military can't do anything. None of the weapons are working. So humans would go back. That was a very realistic aspect that I am all for. Like, I like it. It was good. No negatives here, because I told you. Do I know my stuff? I told you. There was no way it's going to be any negatives. It's too good of a story. I like that it ended without knowing the fate. Hey, that's why we give you horror for real. We know what's going on. Okay.
I love that you said that, because that was a very, very clear decision on my part. I was like, I just want them. Like, the whole cosmic horror thing is the fear of the unknown. So I want the reader to have no idea what those things are gonna do when they come down.
You dipping your toe, but apparently you already know how to swim. So.
Plus, it's easy for me because then I don't have to actually write that part of the story.
Right, you don't have to figure that out. Be like, guess what?
Yeah.
No one knows what happened to him.
Who knows? I don't even know what they would do.
I don't know. Something bad, though, probably. We don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they're looking down to give him some cake. We don't know what's
happening.
Maybe. Here's some cake we've been baking this whole time for you guys. Why are you so stressed out? Well,
they're just trying to help out.
Alien, it was like an alien horror that I saw with like the aliens that came to the planet, and everybody was freaking out, and they tried to attack them, and they was trying to blow them up, and none of the stuff would work on them, and they was there, and then they tried to communicate. They were trying to help humans, actually, because something bad was going to happen to the planet, but they attacked them, and then when they were out there, they were actually able to hurt them. So they were hurting them. So they were kind of like, you know, we're not going to help you now. Like you, only thing you had to do is just listen. You know, so
exactly what
that
the human race would do too.
Right, and that's exactly what they would do. I mean, heck, we attack each other, and we are all the same. So it's kind of like, if anything different, even more different for humans came down, that's all they would do. They would be immediately intimidated, immediately afraid. They're intimidated by each other. So it's like, it probably would be some aliens like, listen, bugs, because that's what you guys are to us. Like, your technology, your thought process, like, you know, we're beings that's level 4, and you're like not even 1 on the scale. There's 1 through 4. Humans are not even a number 1, because they won't evolve past themselves. So it's kind of like, well, why would we really want to kill you, though? Like, what could you possibly have? You're really full of yourselves. Like, what could you possibly have that we want besides maybe your planet? Because, you know, so they'd be more worried about that so much. So, like, they might want to make us into slaves. I'm like, but really, though, would they? Could we really carry their stuff? Could we really do anything for them? Like, we probably wouldn't make very good slaves for the alien race. They don't need us. That's why That's why they're not coming here bothering us. Like, they're not worried about us. Like, calm down. They probably was just bringing us cake. I'm just gonna go with that. I'm gonna pick that ending.
That were could be the ending.
Here's some cake, guys. Enjoy the cake. Do you like chocolate or strawberry? You know, that could be the thing. All right, so make sure I don't miss anything. All right. Let's see. The fear of unknowns, the heart of causing horror. So Cam, you hit it
Absolutely.
nail on the coffin. Got that one. Cam, I loved it truly. I will be creeped out all night, but since I'm sure that's the point, bravo.
Well, the story is called Just Look Down. So that's my advice to you, Aphrodite. Just look down. Don't look up.
Yeah, don't look up, so you won't have to see when they're looking down. Oof. We do have quite a few monsters, but I was talking about the many accents in our tiny little state. Yeah, yeah, even in our state, I guess we do have five in our little state, don't we? And Merlin's very small. Like if you look at it on the map, it's like where is it? Yeah, like connected to like other states just to be relevant on the map pieces when we're trying to put it together. No, I swear I was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. That's the truth. Like she's
Fair enough.
horror scary, but hey, it was crazy good. Like Aphrodite listened. That's amazing because she usually runs for the hills when you say horror. Like she's gone. Like you lucky if she
I'll get her with a real scary one next time.
right. She's gonna be in trouble. Oh my goodness. I think so too. I like sort of being able to think about what happens to them. Yeah, because that guess what? The thing about that is they will be thinking about your story after they've already read it. And that's the amazing thing. So they're done with your story, but they're still like, you can't forget it. When in horror, when people do something, when they write something, and it makes people remember it, even after all the years, because we see how we all just read off like what we think is a scary horror movie or something like that, or a book or something like that from way back when, and we go on these very specific scenes that happen. They did their job. Like we remember it. It's so devastating or it's so scary or creepy that we're talking about it forever. So they got to see what else is Cam doing after this because like I need to know. So that's what happens when you got that type of thing. And horror is so good at that. Like when it's done right and you got it. You
Yeah, I
got
think
it.
that's a really great like writing device for people who write horror is to try and leave the reader with a question at the end,
Leave something.
without it being like a cheap cliffhanger or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously,
They'll get
you don't
mad at
just want
you.
yeah, you don't want to hit them with the old cliche where the serial killer falls out the window and you think they're dead, but then they're gone. It's like where are they? That kind of thing.
Oh
Not
yeah, that's a
necessarily
classic.
that. Yeah, just leave 'em with
That's a classic. Like what
a
happened?
little
Like
question.
we didn't find his body, so and then they'll do like the horror scare at the end of the movie where it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
he
like
came
okay,
back. Like
so they're alive. So we know what they want to do. They want to keep killing people. Like that.
exactly. So we
It's
figured it out. Thanks, guys.
yeah.
Like, so what happened at the end is the beings read their minds and gave them most desired dreams. The end. Look at her. She's trying to help herself sleep
Already
tonight.
got some fan fiction. Love it.
Look at that, right? That movie is Arrival. Yes. Arrival. Yeah, the one I was talking
Right.
about. It is.
The alien
If
one, yeah.
if beings were advanced enough to make it us from whatever to make it us from whatever it is they came from, wherever it is they came from, we are going to look like
Yeah.
roaches to them. This is for
That's a
facts.
good
Like
point. If
it's
they've
no
got
I said
technology to travel between planets, which
right
we
and
don't.
at that because like you can look we looking out like through a telescope and like that's not even have happened yet and like
Hmm.
the with science it's just that's just how it is so it's kind of like if something comes from that distance what kind of technology would that thing have like mm, we only want to share technology with each other when it is discovered and we make it they want to hold it back from just the basic people so really though so
That's how billionaires are made.
you know it
Mm.
you know it advanced yeah advice taken yes I'm taking advice that advice too after that all right Merlin is so small they write the word Merlin in the ocean next to it because it won't fit over the state itself this is true like we're just floating we're not really here guys we're just floating you're right Aphrodite so you got your feedback Cam it was a great story I can't wait for it to come out whatever the collection end up being I'm excited for it already so I can't wait for that.
I'm excited to release it. I just need to figure out a couple more short stories, I think, and get it over the I think 50K words line I want,
Yeah,
and then I'll put it out.
I'll be ready for that. We'll all be ready for that. So, and I have to do a review. I love myself some short horror collections. I'm excited. I can't wait for that.
I'm
Especially if this is any like teaser to this book. I'm
that
all ready for it.
this one's got to be one of the least scary stories in there so far. Some of these are some real, like
Really?
I really don't normally toot my own horn, but I really am proud of some
You
of these
should
stories.
do
I
it. Do
think
it a
that
little bit more. It's okay. I mean, if it's okay to try to like we do again our worst critics. If it's okay to do that, it's also okay to toot your own horn. You're like, does this you literally go by a horn and be like every time? It's like toot toot. It's like
one of the stories, I won't give too much away, but it involves someone being stuck in a very confined space,
ooh
and claustrophobia is something that has
yeah
always been like my most haunting thing. And I was like, well, I want to write a story about the thing that I'm most scared of, and that's basically being stuck somewhere like really
yeah.
confined, and
Ooh yeah.
and
I
everything
feel
goes
you
from
on
bad
that.
to worse for that character, obviously. So I
Ooh.
think that that's going
Oh,
to be
I'm
a bit of a
ready.
creepy story for
Oh, look at
people
him
to read.
teasing us. Look at him teasing us. Okay. All right. I'm ready for that. So I'm gonna give you the spotlight and you can let us know anything that you have planned, whether that's on your channels or whatever you're doing, wherever, whatever you may have coming out. This is your spotlight to plug that. And if you have anything coming up on YouTube you want us to know about to look out for, books, releases, or anything else you have going on, this is your moment.
Thank you very much. Um, I feel like I've done more than enough plugging today, but so I'll keep it brief. But yeah, I'm over on a YouTube channel called Cam Wolfe is Writing. There's an E on the end of Wolf because I'm fancy. Um, I haven't uploaded in a little while just because I've been super busy with my 9 to 5 boring job. The job that I have to do to pay the rent, unfortunately. But I will be uploading there again soon. I do a lot of videos on writing and trying to be a writer, not necessarily me telling you how to be a writer, but just me showing you like the side of trying to be a writer myself. As for what I got coming up, I'm currently working on that collection I mentioned. Just it's been at 99% for a long time now, so I just need to get that done. And then I'm also working on a little fantasy kind of series that are going to be more serialized and old school, kind of like episodic, like watching an episode of The Witcher or something where it's self-contained. But yeah, that's really all I have to say.
Awesome. Oh, look at dipping into the fantasy. Okay, I'm ready for that. I love me some fantasy. Always ready for fantasy. Yes, yes. Aphrodite has a question for you. Also, anyone for your
Sure.
last minute, if you have a question for Cam that you always wanted to ask him and you have not had a chance, now is your chance. So put Q in front of any questions you may have. We have a few minutes to mess with that if you would like to ask him anything at all. Aphrodite said, "When are your next Twitch streams, if you
Oof.
have any planned?"
Yeah, I've been seriously neglecting Twitch for a long time now. I used to stream on Twitch like 2 or 3 times a week, and then I just had to stop for a while.
Yeah.
I got COVID at a certain point, and I
Oh
had to
boy.
stop for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of got overwhelmed with work and stuff. To answer your question, sorry to go off on a ramble there,
No,
but to
you're
answer your
fine.
question, I do want to go back to Twitch soon. It's just the time zones are a bit tricky because I used to stream at what would be after midnight for me because that worked with my work schedule. I worked the night shift,
Yeah.
but I'm going back to the day shift soon, so that's going to be a bit trickier for me. But hopefully, I'm thinking mid next month, I want to start getting at least one stream a week out where we, for anyone that doesn't know, over on Twitch, I think it's just Cam Wolf there. Yeah, one
Yeah.
word, Cam Wolf.
Cool.
We just do some writing together.
Awesome. I have
Basically,
to
just
check that
set it.
out. I really get work done when I do sprints, so I'll have to check you out over there.
It's a lot of fun. We all hang
Yeah.
out there and play some little word games before we start writing to warm up.
Ooh.
It's yeah,
Games,
good
yay.
times.
Awesome. I'll do that. I do have all of Cam's links below, so you can check out all that he has going on and keep up with him if you are not aware. If you are not subscribed to his channel, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. I keep telling people this. You need to go over there, make sure you subscribe to his channel, and make sure you do check out his Twitch. So that way, when he does start streaming again, you can be ready for it. I said, when following Cam ever since, always good to see what he is doing. I devour his anthologies. Yes. So I
Thank you.
am excited to hear that there's going to be another one of the collection. So I'll have to just make sure I try to submit for that one for sure. I'm excited. I need to actually I
Absolutely.
have that on my buy list, the one that you already released. I need to get that one. I've been trying to catch up with my purchases again.
Yeah, We're Not Home. There's some really, really great stories in this one. I think there's like 13 authors.
Yes.
And all the profits go to charity for that
I
one too.
love the cover. It reminded me of like how was it
Oh yeah.
that one of the video games is called Land of the Dead. I think it was the one. Yeah, I used to play that as like a
Oh
multiplayer.
yeah, right.
And so the
Yeah,
art on the cover reminded me of that. So I was like, ooh, I like that
I kind
cover.
I kind of wanted to go with a little bit of like a retro kind of Goosebumps 3D
Yeah, yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. I like that.
I think it came out well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was like, I like this cover. It's not me like, cause I'm a gamer, so I was like, it's not even my gamer days. Like, yeah, this is cool. All right, all right. Let's see if anybody said anything else. So they're saying bye. We're ready to roll out of here because we had such an awesome time. Yep, these streams are fun.
Hey,
I love
thanks for
talking about
having
horror.
me, by the
Of
way.
course, I was excited. I was trying like I gotta get Cam up here because I know Cam got some amazing stuff going on, and everybody needs to need. And the whole point of the show is to really get horror writers in front of people because people don't get to see them a lot of the time. So, and it's sometimes a little hard to pull the horror writers out of the woodwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, let's do one guest at a time so that we can really spotlight on that person, so that people can really hear what they think. Hence why we do the topic, so we can really get to know the horror side of us a little bit more. And it's cool that we like horror. I think it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's the reason
I'm
for the
very
show.
grateful that you invited me on.
Of
And
course, anytime. Don't be surprised if I hit you up again to get back on the show again.
yeah,
So
no
I
worries.
may do that. I like
I'll
to
probably
rotate.
be hitting you up at some point as well for maybe a little collab or something.
Yeah, of course.
I'd love
Always,
to.
always open for collabs. Always. And I love horror, doing horror based collabs too. So
Yeah.
anything really. I really like doing the collabs. And when I came across HorrorTube, like I was like magic because it was so many
Yeah.
cool people that I could relate to in HorrorTube and like BookTube. I was like, oh, this is crazy. There are
Agreed.
people who are obsessed with books like me. I thought I was the only one with 5,000 books. Like, you know. So I was really happy about that. Alrighty. Yes,
Thanks to
and getting
everyone in
the
the
positive
chat too.
feedback.
You've all been
Of
showering
course.
me with
Yeah,
a lot of love today.
everybody loving you, Cam. You like look to you. I guess you don't have to like you got so much love from everybody else. Like you need to roll up into these shows more because you got everybody loving you. So
I'm gonna go tell my mum that I'm finally worthy of respect.
he said I'm making it. Everybody's like Cam, like Cam, like
Everyone likes me now, Mum. I did
That's
it.
right, Mom. I did it. I did it, Mom. Everybody loves me. Regina said, this is so much fun. Great hanging out with everyone. Yes, it's always fun. Yes, collabs. Everyone says it's amazing. Yes, we knew Cam was going to be here. It'd be crazy. I was excited, too, to say that Cam was going to be on the show. When I put the thing up, like everybody, Cam is here. So,
well, I think everyone needs to congratulate you on being a great host as well, by the way.
oh, thank you.
I mean, I'm sure everyone already is, but they should subscribe to this channel as well if you're not.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried to tell people, like, if you're not subscribed to my channel, what are you doing with your life? Like, that means I'm telling you, you're missing really good channels over here. So I don't know what you're doing. Coffee mug. Hey, love this. I enjoyed your horror. Thank you for sharing. Good job.
You.
Yes. Who could not like it? It was so good. There was no way. I told you. Mr. Horror is never wrong. I don't know what it is, but I'm usually right. I haven't been wrong yet, so I haven't. I did tell you. So everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you, Cam, for being on the show. It was a great time. The story was amazing. So kudos to you, bravo. And we are excited for the book, and we'll be looking out for it. So again, if you aren't subscribed to Cam, I don't need to tell you the second line, do I? Again. So make sure you go over there and subscribe to his channel so you can know when his new work comes out, because it's good. We all like to be creeped out and scary. Obviously, you must do to an extent because you're here on my channel. So I'm going to say that's probably true. You did a good job, Cam. No lies. All right. So I will see you all next time. And like I always like to say, stay scared.